Our first one tonight is Colonel Col Dean, who happened to bring his troops with him. Quite a big section you have there. Thank you. We're glad to have you. So, Colonel Dean, if you would come up and you can start off and say what you will.
Thank you. Can I put these down at break just while I'm talking and put them back away so that I finish?
As soon as you finish.
Yeah, just so that Craig doesn't have it up in front of him. When Craig was riding my horse during the parade, I made sure he had my Col Dean to Congress on his saddlebag. So if you ought to get to see the picture of Craig on my horse, we're making sure he's got branding, right? So he's branded with Col Dean to Congress. I did bring my troops tonight. My name's Col Dean. It's Andre Dean. I'm running as Col Dean to Congress. Is the name of the campaign. And I'd like to introduce my wife. Diane, would you stand up and just wave, or just wave? Is good? Okay, so that's Diane. And then 8 of my children are here with me. Why don't you put your hands up, guys? All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're missing a few, but the 8 are here with me tonight because they're on the warpath with me because America's worth it, right? So that's why Craig's in the race. That's why Col Dean's in the race. We have some really serious issues out here facing the nation. I'm not saying anything new to the Tea Party because the Tea Party movement's got this thing down. I would like to say before I get too much into that, just about 2 hours ago I was with Kevin Brady because he came to Madison County. So because he came, I took Joseph, raise your hand, Joseph. Joseph, I took my 11-year-old, and we went down to meet the congressman, and we started passing out literature. And of course, then Lynn from his staff said, Col Dean, you can't pass out literature. This is not a campaign event. Of course, you'll know how that works, right? It's not a campaign event, but the whole thing is a campaign because as soon as you get started, it's run for office. I need to be going. I need to be sent up there again, and these are the things I'm working on. If you'll send me back, I'm going to do the right thing for you. Of course, it's a whole campaign speech with his congressional staff, funded out of our tax dollars. But I know how the game is played, so I'm not bitter about those kind of things. I just make sure I, kind of work through the system to have a chance to impact the game because it's so much more than a game for those of us who have children. If you have a child, you care a little bit. When you have grandchildren, I think you care even more. There's something about the end of your mortal life that when you think, okay, when I'm going back to Jesus and that's the end of my mortal life and my game is over, when I come back in His presence, what have I left behind that has value or worth? And it's not a mansion, it's not a chalet in the mountains somewhere or my vacation yacht. It's none of those things. It's the children and the grandchildren. So I think all three of my grandsons are here tonight. So grandsons, can y'all all raise your hand? There we go. There you go. Yeah! All right, so I'm a dad. I love being a dad. Dad is being the coolest thing. Now you wouldn't think a lieutenant colonel, infantry, airborne ranger, diving out of the airplanes. I have 22 jumps. None of them are combat. They're all at night because I have my eyes closed the whole time. It's a joke in the military. It was never a night jump. I only jumped once at nighttime, and that was in basic training. But my eyes were closed sometimes because coming out that door at 125 knots, when you hit that 3 to 4 seconds and you get that full effect of your body being stopped from 125 knots down to 0 in 1 second, there's a compounding effect on the body. So I did open my eyes and made my way down. But a great chance to serve my country. You'll see my campaign is the Col Dean to Congress. At the bottom you'll see it's Lieutenant Colonel Andre Dean. I've been called Col Dean for the last 9 years, 6 on active duty. In the last 3 years, I have been a senior Army instructor at the Junior RTC program. 2 years in Shreveport, Louisiana, which is 100% black. There was not one white kid, not one Asian kid, not one Hispanic kid in the entire school. It was a failing campus. It was an F-rated campus. Louisiana does theirs A, B, C, D, F. They rate their campuses, so they have a direct accountability. And we had a dynamite program. We won honors the 2 years I was there, the highest honors, distinguished honors that you can win in our ROTC program. The ROTC, if you're not familiar with junior ROTC in high school, we teach citizenship and leadership, overwhelmingly to kids who come from a great disadvantage, kids who have little hope, and most of the world has given up on them. And it'll break your heart, and you get cussed out, and you'll get F-bombed right in your face from 3 inches away, and you'll get swung at with a closed fist, and you'll have violent threats upon your person just because you say there are rules in the classroom and I expect you to follow them. But you can make a big difference in young people's lives. My last year, my job I just finished was the last year I was a senior Army instructor at MacArthur High School. Everywhere I go, somebody's been to MacArthur. MacArthur right now is 92% Hispanic, 6% black, and 2% white. It's been a substantial shift. It's still a bunch of awesome kids, and kids who desperately need leadership, and there are 4,000 students in that program. So if you're not familiar with MacArthur High School, it's the 3rd largest junior ROTC program in the state of Texas. We have almost 200 programs, 192 programs in the state. So we have a massive program, making a difference in young people's lives. Why am I doing that? It doesn't pay great money. What it does pay is the dividends of making a difference in the next generation, because we need to invest in the next generation. And we do that. I think as you grow older, you realize the great value of doing that. I invest in my children. I invest in my grandchildren. I invest in their lives because it matters. But more than that right now, coming out of 27 years in the military, it is obvious to me that unless we get in this fight here as courageous conservatives, anybody recognize that word, the phrase? Where does it come from? It's a Ted Cruz phrase, right? Ted says it everywhere he goes, courageous conservative. Everything he's got is branded courageous conservative. I was just doing an interview with the Conroe Courier just last week, and they said, so what's this courageous conservative stuff? I said, you know a guy named Ted Cruz, Senator? He said, yeah. And I said, it's his brand. It's about being courageous about the things you stand for. Have you seen Ted being courageous anywhere recently? Anybody out there seen Ted stand up when nobody else will stand on any issue at all? Yeah. Anybody out here a Ted fan? Well, you ought to be. And if you're missing out on a super guy. Maybe you're missing some gems coming out of Ted's campaign right now. $14.1 million raised. The most given to any president directly to his campaign, including Jeb Bush, only raised $11.3 million. Ted Cruz is doing some awesome stuff. He didn't raise the most total super PAC money, but he is, I think, third on or second on the list. I think they just released $57 million or something just 2 days ago on his super PAC stuff that's kicking in right now for Ted. Ted Cruz, not because he's raising the money, but because he has conviction and because he stands for principle. And there's a price to pay for that. And Ted's okay with that. So if you ever wonder where Colonel Dean is on the issues, I decided 6 months ago when I printed these things out that I'm standing with Ted Cruz. No matter where he goes in this thing, Ted's guy. I'm standing with. You want to know where I am? Look up Ted's position. Look up mine on my Facebook page or my web page and see where I'm at on the issues. Because he's doing some awesome things and making a great big difference. Let me just tell you a personal story before I go into a couple of issues, and then we'll take some questions and answers. Not many years ago, in high school, I'm a graduate of Madisonville High School. But before I tell that, Grandma and Grandpa are here. Mom and Dad, will y'all wave your hands, please? These are Diane's parents, the George and Susan Stott. We're grateful to have them here with us tonight. So grateful to have you guys here. I didn't mean to overlook you. I got the grandchildren, I got the children. I forgot Grandma and Grandpa. So Mom and Dad are here with us also tonight. When you're in high school and you're looking around the world around you, sometimes you think the world's just too much. The deck is stacked too big against you, can't win. My father died when I was a junior in high school. He was riding my motorcycle. He was coming to pick me up. We were down to one car. The car broke down. Dad said, well, share your motorcycle. My dad does not ride motorcycles. You know, if you're one of those guys who cannot feel balance, Bob's all over this story, I'm sure. But I love motorcycles, and so I had my bike, and Dad said, well, let's ride. I said, Dad, you can't ride a bike. You're scared to death of those things. And he said, well, I don't have a car, so let's just get through this. And he's a front brake guy when you're riding a motorcycle, right? So he was going around the mushroom factory in Madisonville, around the Monterey, going around the corner. There's a lot of gravel because all the trucks come in and out. Car passed him the other way, and the car said, I saw him, and I was clear of him, but I looked in the rearview mirror and saw him stumbling, flipping the bike, flipping, and him flipping through the air. Kind of hard to hear as this child. I was going between my junior and senior year. So Dad loses control of the bike. I know how he does it because he's, even with me on, he grabs the front brake, and what happens is the steering wheel locks to the side, and then immediately go down with the bike, right? Instead of the back brake, where you can lay it down a nice slide if you need to. But he didn't have that control, and he lost the bike, and it killed him. We had a little 6-week-old baby sister. My youngest sister, Christy, was at home. And then we had the rest of the family at the house. We made it through that summer, but it was pretty hard because now all of a sudden we're in a desperate situation. We didn't go to welfare. We didn't ask for anything from the government. We went to our church, and the church for 3 months helped buy groceries for my family. And then my mom got a job. She started teaching piano again, and they got her Dean's music studio going again, and she got her feet back underneath her and cut off the assistance from the church after 3 months because she had it going again. But the impact on me was that was my senior year in high school. I was the #1 student in my class in Madisonville High School. I was elected the student council president for the senior year. I was on fire with a lot of really cool stuff. Now I'm in a desperate situation, so I took a part-time job. I took DECA, and I went to job release at 12 o'clock. And then as soon as I finished my job working at J.B. White's on the square in downtown Madisonville, then I switched over to working for Texas Burger. Y'all ever eat at Texas Burger? They make a pretty good hamburger. Back in the day when I was managing for James Otis Carter, because he lives in Madisonville, Texas, and he's a cousin of mine, back in those days, we ground the stuff ourselves. We took the big 3-way chuck and we ground it through the machine. And we put it out fresh. It was the best burger ever. Anyway, so I worked for James Otis from 5 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night. So I started working the 2 jobs. My grades flickered just a little, but it's just enough to let Clark Osborne and Michelle Fenton slip right past me, barely, and I finished third in my class just by fractions of 1,000th of a point. A little bit of adjustment. But during that senior year, I had a moment in school where Lou Plotz, my math teacher, who's now a justice of the peace in Madison County, saw me crying in the front of the room, because I always sat in the front of the room because I was a straight A student. I was the who's who in every one of his classes he ever taught. because I loved him as a teacher because he had a profound effect on me. He was a guy who taught a lot more than mathematics. He taught life. He was a Christian who loved his value system and wanted to change young people's lives, and he taught life in a beautiful way. He saw me crying, and he said, Andre, what's going on? And I just put my head down and buried it and just started sobbing. And he said, Andre, come here, out of the classroom. Went to the hallway. And he said, what's going on? I said, you're talking about college today, Mr. Plotz. I will never go to college. Do you know what my family's financial situation is? My mom couldn't even come up with $50 if she sacrificed for 3 months. There's no college. I don't have a chance to go to school. And you guys are all talking about there. All my classmates are going to go, and I'm not going to go. Andre's not going to school. And he said, hold on a second. He called Clark and said, hey, Clark, take over the classroom. One student. So I'm thinking, he's called Clark in charge. And then I went out of the office and met with Mr. Ted Poe, our principal. For 30 minutes, those two men said, Andre, don't you dare give up this fight. Here's how it works. And those two guys took out of their whole day. They stopped the whole clock of everything else they were working on to invest a little bit of time in one young man who was in tears because he thought he'll never go to college and there's not going to be a chance for him to have a future in this great big America because they're in a desperate situation financially at home. Changed my life. That moment on, I believe that they would not lie to me, that they told me I could do it, and they gave me a couple of ways to make it happen. Through hard work, discipline, believing, just getting there, getting a job, finding a way in, taking whatever you could sleep on as a place to sleep, and making a grade in school, and not ever giving up on an education. And they were exactly right. Ted Poe, Lou Plotz changed my life. Went over there, found out that I could actually had an aptitude for military service. I won the Commanding General's Award for military when I was in basic training and private, Private Dean was in charge of things, and I did more push-ups, thousands of push-ups more than anybody else in that whole platoon because they constantly, gave it back. But I found I had an aptitude, and I loved it, and I dished back what they gave to me, but I did it in a respectful way. They put me in charge of everything, and I found out I'd make maybe a pretty good officer. And so I let go after a few years of being private, Joe Snuffy, and I went on to follow the officer track and was able to do 27 years of military service and 21 years on active duty, 6 in the reserve component. Great chance for me to be able to serve my country. I just tell you that as some background roots because I think sometimes we're missing in our elected officials something about service to country. I'm an airborne infantry ranger. I'm on the front lines. Well, my volunteerism is not to be anywhere else except where the enemy's shooting at me. Why do people do that kind of stuff? Why do all those thousands of infantry guys I've served with do that kind of a thing? Because they don't mind dying for something they believe in. And America is something that's precious to all of our veterans. But it's certainly precious to me, and I think 27 years speaks pretty strongly to that. I'm not just a guy who just fly by night seat of the pants. I did, however, run against Kevin 17 years ago. I took a break from service, and I was going to run for Justice of the Peace in Brazos County where I was living. And the judge said, Andre, I need you to come out to some meetings. And so I came out and I met Kevin, and I said, oh my gosh, there's a problem here. I was used to strong leadership that kicked butt and made things happen. Great with working out, hearing solutions, listening to people, finding out what the input was, and a decision was made, and then making things happen because of dynamic leadership. I was just with Kevin this morning, and at the end of his presentation, where Kevin was pitching in Hilltop Lakes this morning, and then he pitched his town hall in Madison County, and then Kevin said, let's talk about Iran. And he said, Iran's a dangerous situation, and we're working on it. And I thought, that's it? That's all we're going to get out of this? So he finished up with his top 3 issues, Social Security, Iran, and I forget what the other one was, trade, tax, cap, whatever, something. I can't remember because it was so, nobody even asked questions about it. But on Iran, I put my hand up and I said, Kevin, look, I'm running against you. You remember me when I walked to the door because we debated 13 times when I ran against him a long time, but he doesn't do that anymore, but he used to. We used to come out and have to earn his job. So I said, Kevin, this is a straight up shot. I'm running against you, but I want to know, first of all, on Iran. When you say there's an agreement between the President of the United States that the Congress is about to review, don't you think that is very dangerous for you to play into that wordplay? It smells like a treaty, it walks like a treaty, and it quacks like a treaty. Isn't it a treaty? And second of all, what is President Obama doing when he's doing all this? Because he's got an end run going around the entire Congress, and there seems to be nothing you can do about it? That's not American democracy. That's not our representative government. That's a wrong answer. And Kevin said, okay, first one. Yeah, we should be using the word treaty, and maybe we could do something more about it. And second one, he said President Obama is naive. And that's what he said, and he went on to the next question. And I'm thinking, a naive, that he just doesn't know, he's just not very well informed, not very smart. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy's brilliant, he's running circles around you guys, and where's the fighters? Where's the warriors that stand up? So I said, Kevin, last piece, I know you got to answer a lot of questions, you don't need me to ask too many because I'm just the opponent here. But I have 2 sons who are under contract with the United States Army in the ROTC, where they've signed their contract and are underway with it, to serve as United States Army officers. I said, Kevin, if you get this one wrong, you will kill my sons. My sons will die in this next conflict, because if we get this wrong, Iran becomes a nuclear power, they blow the hell out of Israel, Israel ceases to exist, and what do we have? We have America in the biggest fight of our lives of the entire Middle East. Said, you've got to get this right, Kevin. I said, I'm talking to you as a man to a man. You're still my congressman. I can't do this right now. I haven't beaten you yet in the election. But would you please get that one right for my boys? He said, I hear you. I know. I've got 2 boys in my own. He said, this is for everybody. I said, well, they're about that age, aren't they? And he said 13 and 17. I think his 2 sons, what he told us as a group today, of their current ages. I said, well, maybe you can relate as a father. Some decisions we've got to get right. Now, I think Kevin's wrong on a whole host of issues. I pray for him to get this one right. I can't force this decision, but this is a very dangerous time for America. If you feel like it's a dangerous time, I hope that you're either electing Craig or you're electing Col Dean. You're letting one of us get up there and do a little bit more of fighting instead of what is very polite, politesse, very nice, let's all get along as school children. Instead of, what I hope we see a little bit more of is somebody on the floor of the United States Senate saying, you lied. All of you are lying to me. Stop it. Let's get this all above deck. And let's have some clean policy. It's not divisive to be able to do that. Now, sometimes people hear me say, you know, let's get along. We ought to be able to, I mean, to be divisive or be like Ted on I Stand With Ted. I don't think Ted is a great divider in that sense. I think President Obama is a master divider. I don't see Ted as a divider. I see him one speaking the truth, and people who love truth will flock and rally to him. If you looked at my brochure, you'll see somewhere on there, right underneath my graduate school, University of Texas, Austin, I finished I'm a fighting Texas Aggie class of '86. Any Aggies out here? Only one AGG? We can't even do a yell practice tonight. All right, well, I graduated from A&M and then went on to UT Austin. Not because I saw the light, but because they had a great program down there. And I went to UT Austin and I worked for Barbara Jordan. Anybody know Barbara Jordan? All right. She is black. She, at the time that I worked for her, she's a Democrat, a staunchly devout Democrat. And she, at that time, was considered the greatest living orator in America, and she delivered on it. And if you ever heard her speak, oh my gosh, that lady is brilliant. First question I asked was, how do you speak like that, Barbara? My father taught me how to speak, Andre. And that's how she spoke. Really powerful stuff. Really, really good lady. But I think one of the things that comes back to me is, can you work with other people? And, well, heck yeah, I worked with Barbara Jordan. The whole time I was there as her aide and working at the LBJ school, everybody in that school, except for 3 of us, 148 students in the class, 3 of us were conservative. Everybody else was a liberal. We took C's on every paper we wrote because the professors took off 2 letter grades just for writing a paper that had a conservative bent to it. You had to go back to the professor and fight for your grade to be a B, never an A, because that was never going to happen. But Lady Bird Johnson was there at the school, and Elspeth Rostow was my mentor who actually did my master's thesis. And her husband, Walt Rostow, who was the National Security Advisor to Lyndon Baines Johnson. I know I'm going back a long ways for some of y'all, but Walt Rostow and Elspeth Rostow are kind of legends in the Austin community. Say again?
You don't look that old.
I'm 54, 3 grandchildren. I'm getting on up there in years. I don't run as much as I used to either. Okay, but last couple of thoughts. So, a chance to work across the aisles. I think I've shown that I can do that. I think I win the trust from the other side. And I think honesty and straightforwardness and goodness have their own virtue. But I think you need to stand on principle, and I think Ted has done a marvelous job of showing us how to do that. If you've looked through my brochure and you've seen a couple of things in there, the very top issue for me absolutely is the $18.3 trillion debt. When President Obama says to the United States of America, and y'all all listened to him, the last State of the Union speech, when he stood before the nation, he said, the greatest threat facing this nation is
Global warming.
Global warming. And he said it with a straight face, and he really meant it. I don't know if you've looked at the polls. I watch the polls because I want to know what America's thinking. Every poll, including the most recent one, the one that was just taken in June by Gallup, when global warming is listed as a major issue facing the nation, where does it finish? Last amongst Republicans and second to the last amongst Democrats. It is the bottom-rated national security threat. It's not even a security threat. It's just called issues facing the nation. You put 26 issues out there, it's 26 amongst conservatives and 25th amongst Democrats. What is going on with this piece? Well, when you talk about security threat, to me, $18.3 trillion is an imminent threat. If we don't fix it, there's a grave danger to this nation. I know everybody sweeps under the carpet. I know Kevin Brady today was talking, he's working on making taxation. I think right now, as a career military officer, that if we don't fix the $18.3 trillion, we will go down the path of Greece, we'll go down the path of Spain, we'll go down the path of Portugal. Iceland, Ireland. Watch the nations who have over-socialized their economies, their communities, and watch us see what they do to destroy a nation. And when you take out your $100 bill and look at turning it to 25 cents overnight, you will see the devastation of a nation, and you will see the price we will pay as an American people. We will not continue to exist. That to me is an imminent threat. Unless you stop the bleeding, right now projections are $21 to $22 trillion by the time Obama leaves office in a year. It is spiraling out of control because who cares besides one guy who stood on the floor of the United States Senate and read Green Eggs and Hams to his children and say goodnight, Dr. Seuss? Anybody watch that speech? To say goodnight to his boys. That was the first book I ever read when I was a child. My mom read to me Green Eggs and Ham, and I read it by myself, or at least I thought I did. So it kind of touched my heart. But it was a guy standing out there saying, we can't just lay down and take this. This is a national interest. It really matters that we fix the $18 trillion debt. How do you fix it? If you look at the back of my brochure, the penny plan, I think, is the #1 solution. I don't know of anything that's better than that. I know Sean Hannity supports it. I know Ted Cruz supports it. I know Rand Paul supports it. I know a lot of people are talking a plan that locks all expenses of all the federal agencies in place and then cuts 1 penny. Every year, in 7 years, you'll actually have the budget fully balanced, because in the 10 years it's $7.6 trillion of savings. Can you do that? Well, no, because we never do, ever. Mostly because we never get a coalition together to stop the spending. But can you at least get a plan together instead of just saying, I'm mad at the $1 trillion debt, or $18 trillion, who cares, yeah, blah, 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 elect me to office so I can go up there and just tell you I'm working on it and give you that hum-hum speech? Or go up there and lead a coalition. The largest coalition in the entire United States Congress for Republicans is Texas. We have 25 Republican congressmen. When Kevin Brady voted the $1.1 trillion omnibus, the continuing resolution omnibus, the CR omnibus, just December, for those of you who are watching, when he voted for that piece, I just heard him tell us again today. The only reason I supported that, and got a lot of trouble with all those Tea Party people, those were his exact words just about 3 hours ago, all those Tea Party people, was because I was supporting the military. And they don't understand that sometimes. So, you can play a lot of games with the money up there and pretend you're supporting the American military and couch it all under and conceal it and play shell games. But in the end, you look at heritage rating of Kevin, he's a 64% lifetime conservative voter, 64%. We're the #2 most conservative district in the entire state of Texas. Only Midland, Texas votes more conservative than the 8th Congressional District right here where you're sitting. You should have firepower. You should have chutzpah. You should have guns blazing up there in Washington, D.C., building alliances on both sides of the aisle wherever you get the chance to, and proven track record of love for this country. I think you can find some love for country from Craig. I think you can find some love for country from Col Dean when you look at our campaigns, and then figure out how we're going to make a difference up there and change the way we do business. You can build a coalition with Texas legislators. We can start there, and there's a lot of guys on our team. The Southern Bible Belt is a great place to start building a coalition. And with enough coalition and some leadership and some firepower, instead of just, I'm just working on it. Did you see that I just got an appointment to the House Ways and Means Committee? Or I'm a leader. Y'all have elected me, and I'm now a leader in the House of Representatives. And I think, really? I don't feel any leadership coming from you at all on any issues. Kevin, you're a nice guy, but come on, buddy. We're in a fight for our lives. My sons are going to die if you get this wrong. We're in a fight for the survival of a nation, the United States of America. If we miss this fight right now, we go 4 more years with a Hillary Clinton or a Joe Biden, the latest discussion right now, because Hillary's plummeting in the polls. Can you imagine this nation under Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden for 4 more years? We're already in deep trouble. It's going to take us 20 years to dig out from where we're at right now in the very, very damning and damaging work that's been done by 8 years of Obama administration. We've got to dig out from underneath it. And we don't do that by electing either one of those two. We do it by electing you name it, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul. Thursday night, I hope you'll all be home watching the debates to get some sense of who's got the chutzpah, who's got the insight, who's got the charisma, who's got the basic principles and core values, who really cares, instead of who's just up there talking another rehearsed line before they walked out on the stage and said, if you say this, you'll get 23% of the voters. And if you say this, you'll get 72%. So say it like you mean it. Good luck, Rick Perry. Ladies and gentlemen, I just proposed to you that we can make a big difference. I ask you to take a look at my campaign brochure. It's online. The issues are out there. The brochure is right here. I ran 17 years ago. I'm now out of the military, fully retired. I would love to sit home and just ride horses and hang out with my grandchildren and go fishing. But this fight is way too serious for that. If I do that, I will enjoy that for about 3 or 4 years, and then I will watch America implode. That is unacceptable to me. I cannot do that. I'm a warrior. I'm a trained warrior. All my life I fought as a warrior. I am still a warrior. I love this great country, America. I would like to be your representative, and I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.